we are hearing a lot about what the CDC has told us already, and that is, if you had a little dementia before, you're probably going to have a lot more of it now. If you didn't have any, you may have more of it, depending on your age group. And so we're really trying to prepare communities, senior centers, for an influx in their communities. So CDC says 30 to 40% increase. And Megan, I'm not sure what the Alzheimer's Association says, but that is what I keep looking at and talking to when I talk to communities. So I'm about to share my screen and go into slideshow mode. And as always, everybody should cross their fingers and hope that it all works. So my name is Patty Sullivan. I work for the Mass Councils on Aging. I'm the director of the Dementia Friendly Massachusetts program. I have probably on this call a few third-party endorsements in James and Megan and Cynthia, lots of people I work with all the time. We have, at this point, 58 communities across the state that have already committed to be dementia friendly. Some of them come through ASAP, some of them are regional, some of them are individual, but generally we have right now about 165 communities interested, and more coming, as we are finding as we move through here, through this work. So your question is, what is Dementia Friendly Massachusetts? It's really a grassroots effort. It's how to make your community or your region or your catchment more welcoming for people living with dementia. And we're part of a larger organization in terms of Dementia Friendly America. But I will tell you that, as many of you know, Massachusetts is incredibly lucky. We have the Tufts Health Plan Foundation. We have the Mass Gerontological Association. We have UMass Boston and the academic, both the research end and the production of terrific students. Massachusetts, with also the support of the governor and state funding, we've got all sorts of people supporting our work. And I will tell you that I am relatively new to Massachusetts. I think I've been here for 4 years. And when I visit with my friends across the country, on more than one occasion, I've been told to sort of shut up because they're tired of hearing all the great work that is going on in Massachusetts that they can't get done in their own state. So how do we do this work? It's pretty simple and pretty hard at the same time. Very simple steps. We raise awareness. We educate the community or the region about dementia. And we help planners and communities understand the physical changes in the environment to support people living with dementia and their care partners. So, Becky, I'm seeing flash up on my screen some questions in the chat. So could you monitor that for me?
Yes, I will do that.
So I can put this on one screen, but it's not as easy as it looks. So I always like to take a minute to talk a little bit about what dementia is, a disease of the mind, the fact that you may develop this disease increases with age. Generally, the older you get, the higher the risk of having dementia. Internationally, every 65 seconds, everybody develops the disease, and 1 in 3 seniors die with dementia. So it is a condition that many people experience, but not everyone experiences. And I confess that when I look back at these slides, and I think of it in the context of the COVID crisis, I just find the whole thing very troubling. So we deal a lot with numbers, obviously. These are the stats in Massachusetts. We are an older state, as many of you know. And so across the state, we are watching as more and more people get older, and that means a much higher incidence of dementia. And then you add that, the COVID factor. So when senior centers open their doors, let's just theorize the spring or summer or fall, and we're already seeing it, many more people who come in through drive-bys or Shine accounts or whatever, all the work that we're doing now, we're seeing many more people with accelerated dementia. The other benefit that we have in Massachusetts is a lot of data. And so for each of your communities, and in some case sub-communities in a number, in Springfield and in Boston, you can look with intimate detail about what is happening with the older population in your community. So if you have not gone onto James's website and check this out for your town or region, I highly recommend that you do so. Only because it helps you get a realization about what's happening in your back door. And in some cases, and I used to do this when I could, I would drive all over the state, and I would arrive in Orange, Massachusetts, and I'd pull out this data sheet, and they would tell me what was right and wrong about it. And I would email that information back to UMass Boston, and they would correct it. So these are living documents that have been translated into multiple languages that really educate a community, and particularly not only the community itself, but also community leadership about what is happening in their backyard. So the real question is, once you decide that you want to become dementia friendly, what do you do? And how do you support people living with this disease in even greater numbers in ways that you hadn't thought about before? And so we provide very simple services with a lot of our partners. Megan LeMay is going to speak next, and you are very fortunate to have her in your part of the world to help with education, to sort of bringing really on the ground, let me help you, let me hold your hand, let me help you get through this disease types of services. And so I always, and as Megan will reiterate, I always share the Alzheimer's Association hotline. That's the easiest way for us to instantly provide services, right on the ground, and providing people with a care plan and help and support and just a friendly voice, which we all need right now. But the other part of the work that I do is helping people understand why older adults matter in a community. And as James knows, before I started working on Dementia Friendly, I worked on age-friendly issues and had to convince a community about the importance of older adults. So if you think about older adults from a planning or regional or town or whatever, let's look at what we know about the older adults in our community. They tend to have long-term home ownership. They have pensions, none of us do now. There's a long-term commitment to the community, right? Their taxes have built the library and the schools. They tend to shop locally. They make charitable contributions at a much higher rate than younger people. They pay in cash, and They don't demand services. It's not like older adults are in school. So you've got this population that from a planning and purely numerical basis are very desirable to have in a community. And that's why communities are trying to attract older adults. So I now want to talk specifically about what a dementia-friendly community looks like. What does a DFM community look like? Now for example, Sturbridge, probably 2 years ago, the planners and the town management in Sturbridge decided, and I remember one of the selectmen saying this to me, he said, all right, your kids are gone. You're going to have to sell your house in Boston and you're going to move out, right? You're going to move out to Western or out West, wherever, because you can't afford to buy a place in Boston. And so we want to attract you. So by becoming age and dementia friendly, it makes it more attractive to me. So what does it look like? In a community that's dementia friendly, we offer information sessions about what is it? What does dementia look like? How do you work with people who have dementia? How do you recognize it? We offer specific cafes. A memory cafe is an event that people with dementia and their care partners can come to. It's in part respite, but it's also a way to build a support group in your community. We have Purple Tables. Purple Table is a restaurant that's committed to training its wait staff. And when restaurants open up again and people can go out, Purple Tables will come back, as I've talked to their director. We also talk a lot about physical changes to the community. You know, communities are making these changes. We just want you to make them with the lens of dementia friendly. We also do a lot of training for everybody in town about what dementia is and how you can support people living with the disease. And as a result of that, we've got communities teeny tiny and very large all over the state engaged in this work. So I want to specifically talk a little bit about what is dementia-friendly infrastructure, because people say, what does it look like? So I always capture these 6 items: familiar, legible, distinctive, accessible, comfortable, and safe. Pretty basic, but I want to show you what it looks like. And as I mentioned before, municipalities are already spending the money to do these things. So in the city of Boston, they just put in, I think, 96 new benches because they want people to get out and walk and move around outside, even when it's cold, but they need a place to sit, right? So all the dementia-friendly Boston staff did was say, let's put the benches in the right place. It's not rocket science, but you need to think about it. So let me talk for just a second about the principles of design when you're looking at dementia-friendly. Is it familiar? Is it legible? Is it distinctive? Is it accessible, which is probably something that all of us know? Whoops. Is it comfortable? And is it safe? So these 6 items can help anybody put on the lens of dementia friendly and think about what you might want to do as a municipality, as a council on aging, or wherever you are, to build a more DF friendly environment. So I always love to share examples. So who would like to sit down on the chair that's above? It doesn't exactly look welcoming in the wintertime. It's probably pretty cold. But again, it's not familiar. It's not legible. There's no signage. And it's not necessarily comfortable. And I don't think it's safe. If you look at the lower bench, it's the opposite of that. And if in a perfect world, I would put another hand rail in the center of that bench, but one can't be picky about these things. This is one of my favorites. This is a bench in a community in Austin. And again, do you wipe your feet or do you sit on it? So these are examples of a community that wanted to put a bench down, but put one that's very confusing for older adults, let alone someone with dementia. This is one of my favorite buildings in Boston. This is our city hall, which if you've ever tried to get into, you can't figure out how to get in. And so trying to make sure that you can understand where the entrance is and is it accessible is really important. The lower picture is a exit from one of the T stations, I think it's South Station, that I took. Again, you can't really tell where the door is and where the windows are. To the great embarrassment of my children, I often take pictures of restroom signage. And so you look at this sign, and without dementia, I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. And so to the extent that and you can see lots of pictures online, you're going to put up signage in the town hall or the library or the senior center or any other public building. Why not put up one that is dementia friendly? This is another example of something that looks very welcoming and comfortable and accessible. And if you look here, this is supposed to be a sidewalk. Oops, sorry. Again, creating legibility, creating focus. Every time I look at this picture in here, I remember once I was visiting my sister in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I took a run. And every house looked the same and every cactus looked the same. And after an hour, I called my sister and said, I'm totally lost. And she said, turn left at the cactus. Well, there were cactuses everywhere. So no distinction, nothing that makes it easily navigatable. So something to think about. So it's a matter of thinking about when you're designing things, how to do it in a way that makes it welcoming. So I also want to mention, I work on dementia friendly, but as I noted before, my background is an age friendly. And so when I come into a community, I really recommend that you do both. Because you can do one without the other, but you end up wasting time, money, and resources. And as I always say, if you do age friendly, you miss dementia friendly. And if you do only dementia friendly, you miss age friendly. So working with Pam McLeod and the Office of Elder Affairs, we and James and many others help put together an integration toolkit that makes it really easy to do both at the same time. The other thing is that we, again, have lots of free resources here, both from MCOA, DFM, MPAC, the Alzheimer's Association, JF&CS. We are rich in resources in Massachusetts. So any questions?
People
I'm
are
trying
just
to stop share. There it is.
people asked about the slides, and I said we would send those out afterwards. Yeah. If you have, oh, Haley?
I'm curious about the process of getting started and where you think where the best place to start in creating collaborative efforts within a municipality are. For example, I can think of, well, basically every department is relevant to the process, but I wonder if your experience leads you to recommend any natural allies to this process that might be the best starting point, like maybe the planning department or even the library, or if you already have a relationship, I'm tending to think about talking to people that who already help us, like our police department and fire department. So I would just love some general advice based on experience on starting points for building a coalition in your town or city.
Well, you've got all the right ideas, Haley. I always recommend that you obviously start with planning, start with the Council on Aging, and especially talk to the libraries who are way out in front on many of these issues. And then it varies. First responders, there's a wide array of people, the local businesses, small business, chambers. I mean, I can go on and on. If you want a good sense of what other towns are doing, if you go onto the DF Massachusetts website, there you can click through, go on to who signed the pledge, and we have a picture of all of the pledges that have been signed. And you can see it's the town administrator, it's the, it's basically in some cases, the relationships that have already been established, in part because we've got to empower folks to, be able to work with this population. But I also have to tell you that there was a meeting that I went to in Lunenburg once where the senior center director invited all these people into the room. And it was all the people that you just named. And at the end of the meeting, I thought they were all buddies. I thought they all knew each other. And at the end of the meeting, I realized none of them had met each other before. So it's an opportunity to leverage your existing partnerships, also, though, to bring others to the table. James?
Just to build on that, I mean, you probably already have a lot of these relationships in your community anyway, so you could always start with who you have those traditional partnerships with and leave the door open for others to join as the process moves along. So for age-friendly, one requirement is that you have sign off and endorsement from municipal leadership. And it's a lot easier to do that when you have multiple kind of municipal departments and so on, but not to leave out community-based organizations, the business community, and just other volunteer groups or folks that are around. We have, the first chamber of commerce in the country that's co-leading an age-friendly and I think hopefully dementia friendly as well initiative in the Norwood area. So, part of why we've been innovative in Massachusetts is not because we're just trying to do this, it's because we have to. All communities in the state sort of have different makeups and relationships and dynamics and organizations that see the value in being age and dementia friendly. And I think you can always start where the strength and passion is, and then as you move on and start to gain momentum, others can kind of latch on and become part of that group, or that, have a seat at that table.
So James, I'd like to kind of add on to what you and Patty just said. I think one of the most important pieces is to make sure that you include residents. One of the commitments we made with the Springfield Dementia Friendly Coalition is that it would be residential driven. We also met with our public officials, our Health and Human Services Commissioner, as well as the mayor prior to.
Right.
And a lot of this, as I said, was driven by residents. So it's really important to get residents at the table before you make any decision. Most folks don't like to be invited to dinner once the table is set. I want to know what the menu is.
Oh, come on, Cynthia, you're going to determine the menu.
That was the secret part, Patty.
Cynthia, did you want to say a little more about what your process was in Springfield?
Absolutely. I am absolutely happy to say that the city of Springfield earned its recognition in June 2019. So for those of you who don't know, the city of Springfield is already dementia friendly, as well as age friendly. And Patty and James, if you can remind me, we did a trifecta that day, correct?
We did.
It was age, dementia, and what was the one for Bay State?
Age-friendly
hospital system,
Yep.
Health system. Sorry.
Samantha's got it.
Thank you, Samantha. I'm sorry. So we achieved a trifecta, and just to take a step back, the Springfield Dementia Friendly Coalition actually was convened in 2018. So within a year, we really worked hard to get that designation, but we also done quite a few things in the community. As I said originally, the Dementia Coalition is really resident driven, but we also have different departments within the city. We also have like Elder Affairs. There's Z, one of our members. Megan is a member. We had someone from Greater Springfield Senior Services. We've had home health care organizations, but we have a really diverse, but primarily resident driven. So some of the things that we achieved during that time was we developed our mission and vision statement. We did a lot of infrastructure work to get ourselves going. We created guiding principles. And this is kind of used, we looked at the World Health Organization and Dementia Friendly America toolkits to come up with these things. So we convened this leadership group and we came up with all these different things. We created, I think one thing that was important was a member expectation. It's kind of challenging, and I know for me, if you ask me to be part of something, I'm not sure what you expect of me. So we created that and members signed off on that. We also established 3 subcommittees. Our Education and Training Committee, which Megan is the chair of. We did outreach and marketing. We also did compliance and affiliation. And that was working on our Dementia Free America at the time certification. We've also applied for a mini grant through the State Department of Elder Affairs, Mass Council on Aging. In May of 2018, we were successful with that. We were holding regular monthly meetings with an 80% participation rate. So we've done a lot of things. Unfortunate, as we all know, COVID kind of shut some of that down, but we're looking forward to getting going again. And I think one of the things is that we definitely need to look at is, what is our vision now? Our original vision was to make Springfield a dementia-friendly city. Well, that's done, but we still have a vision. So we need to work on revising our vision. We might take another look at our mission statement. We want to make sure that we create the infrastructure and processes that will last after we're all gone or when I retire. So we're going to be revisiting a lot of that stuff, and we will get back on track soon. But other than that, we also using the America Friendly Toolkit, we conducted focus groups. We did 3 focus groups. We did one with city officials, and thanks to Z, it was hosted at the Ray Jordan Community Center. We did one with the faith-based community. We also did one with the business community, which was co-hosted with Loomis Community, was part of the coalition, at the fort. Very well attended and very interested in what folks were saying at the time. They were all eager to learn more, wanted to do the purple table, but again, we are where we are right now. The other thing we did was we also hosted the very first faith-based Purple Sunday in the city of Springfield. So we've accomplished a lot of firsts. We do plan, like I said, to get back on schedule, looking forward to plotting our course ahead. One of the things that I've heard from some folks and hope to get more is, once the city is dementia free, what does that mean? Does it mean that in order for the city to be continuously considered dementia friendly, that each department would have to take X number of trainings and they earn a decal? We don't know yet. So those are some of the thoughts that we're having, because we want to also extend this to the business community. So if some of our financial institutions send their staff to get a training, then they earn a decal. So those are some of the things we need to work on. How do we promote and publicize the fact that the city is dementia friendly, but we also want other entities within the city to be the same way. So you will be hearing from us. I will be calling on you guys, Patty, James, Samantha, for some input and Megan, and how we can make these things happen. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one other thing I want to add. The report, Patty, you talked about, and James, you talked about the healthy aging report.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely fantastic. I would encourage everyone to go and check it out. Matter of fact, I looked at it over the weekend. I'm looking at Springfield. Percentage of 65 plus with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia, 16.7% as compared to statewide, 13.6.
Right.
Dementia,
right.
Alzheimer's and dementia is most prevalent in communities of color who are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's and dementia than their white counterparts. The majority of folks in the city of Springfield, which is a minority community with a 30% poverty rate, people of color are suffering with Alzheimer's and dementia. We need to do as much education as we can. We need to keep getting the word out there and do what we can. It's difficult times now, but we got to figure out something. Thank you. I'm off my pulpit now.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Did anyone else see? Did you have something to add there? I saw you were unmuting. Oh, Christine, you had a question?
I have a question, yep. So when I'm a planner for the town of Amherst, and when we're planning handicapped accessibility, we try to plan so that people can get around on their own. So I guess I have a two-part question. One is, the first part is there an assumption for people with dementia that they are able to get around on their own, or is there an assumption that they usually have a caregiver with them, or a care partner, as you were calling it, going out with them? And then there's a more specific second part to that question, which is that we're doing some intersection redesign, and the most traditional, most familiar form of intersection is a cross intersection or a T intersection with a traffic light and a button that you can push if you want to walk across the street. So we're considering a roundabout in a particular location. So when you're considering, are there standards for this type of infrastructure improvement that would let us know whether something is age friendly? Is often tied up with handicapped accessibility, but dementia friendly is different. And I'm thinking, is a roundabout something that is dementia friendly, because it's not immediately understandable by people? So two questions. Do people usually have a caregiver, and would roundabouts be considered dementia friendly?
Question number one is, a lot of people are wandering around the community right now who have mild forms of dementia, who are undiagnosed. There's lots of stigma associated. There are lots of limitations about how to get a diagnosis. So what happens, and as a planner, this must drive you crazy, is that I can't exactly tell you how many people in your community have dementia. And also, dementia is a spectrum, right? So you can have mild dementia, or you can have the most extreme version of Alzheimer's, and everything in between. So can you assume that somebody living with dementia has a care partner? And I use care partner only because, we try to encourage, and Megan, I hope you'll talk about this, that people who are, you're in a caring relationship, you want to empower the person who has dementia or Alzheimer's to help with their own care. And I deal with this a lot with my mother. You probably have done so with your family members. But to the extent that you want to empower somebody else to help in their own care, it helps with their independence. So sometimes there's a care partner, sometimes there isn't. But there's this very blurry line, at least in my own mind, between what's age friendly and what's dementia friendly. And a roundabout for me isn't in any way friendly, only because I drive around them all the time and get confused. And I'm trying to, you know, in particular, as somebody who didn't grow up in Massachusetts, I wasn't used to the roundabout notion. So when I hit the roundabouts, I really have to take a step back. And I don't think I have dementia. I may, but I don't know. What I will do, Christine, and I reference this, there was a great article in my slides, and I'll send them, or I think, Becky, you did. There's a really interesting guy who, in his probably 50s, went back and got a master's degree in dementia-friendly physical design. And he has a whole section on his thesis about how you design streets. So I'll send you that.
Thank you.
The less confusion, the better. And the more age and dementia friendly, always the best. So, but don't assume either. And, you know, I swear to God, I'm gonna kill someday the person who designed Hyannis with all of the roundabouts here, because it drives me crazy on a regular basis.
And just to, if I can jump in, Patty, too, you know, although it doesn't always go all the way there, when you talk about concepts of universal design and complete streets, it's with an eye towards inclusion and accessibility more so than, you know, your usual intersections are that, or I mean, certainly rotaries and roundabouts, but if you have those concepts in mind, you're on the pathway towards that. And it's really about, you know, what Patty's been presenting. It's signage and having things, you know, at eye level that, and Patty, I think Pam from Elder Affairs has talked about this. If you're going to have somewhere with a bus stop, you know, not just a picture of a bus, that's not going to do it. You need to say, this is like, here's a bus stop with, you know, different things. So just like the bathroom sign with, you know, the mermaid and whatever else that was on there. It's you know, the simple things that people can understand, if they're universally understandable, then, you know, they tend to be understandable for everybody. But also some of the best infrastructure to help with this is social infrastructure and that awareness raising and having people aware of, you know, how to assist folks and just understand what people are going through that are living with dementia. That's a huge part of it as well.
Thanks. I think we'll move on to Megan's presentation, and then there will be time after that also for some more questions. So Megan, you want to go ahead?
Hi, everyone. So good to see you. My name is Megan LeMay. I'm the regional manager at the Alzheimer's Association here in Springfield, Mass, but I cover all of Western Mass, so all 4 counties of Western Mass. I just wanted to mention one thing about, the physical stuff that we were all just discussing. I think, you know, one big takeaway, and Patty talked about this, is really signage, you know, that's something planners can do, we can all do in any spaces that are public spaces, just making signage better, making it as clear as possible, making it in big, bold letters, simple language and simple pictures can be really helpful, just to help people navigate around, and more, because often people are by themselves. Someone, you know, asked that question, that we have to kind of assume that many people, like Patty said, probably millions of people in the United States are living by themselves with some form of dementia, living independently. And so we have to kind of make those accommodations and try to make it a more friendly place for everyone. And, you know, a lot of those accommodations often make it easier for everyone to navigate around, as we all know. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and jump into my presentation here. Okay, you can all see my screen, I think. Okay. So again, I work for the Alzheimer's Association. We are a national nonprofit organization, but I work here in Springfield and cover all of Western Massachusetts. And we really want to make sure that we're working on this mission of making Massachusetts as dementia friendly as possible and making all the towns go dementia friendly as well. So the numbers really are staggering. There's almost 6 million people in the United States currently living with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. That's probably an undercount. There are many people who are living, you know, like Patty said, without a diagnosis. There's still a lot of stigma to getting a diagnosis. There's still a lot of misunderstanding about what the signs of dementia are. So this is a big problem and something we all want to work on. And also, if you know, there's almost 6 million people with Alzheimer's, that means there's millions more caregivers and care partners. So this is also about making sure that we provide support to caregivers out there as well. So this is a list of our services at the Alzheimer's Association. So you can all always use us definitely as a resource. We have our 24/7 helpline that's staffed by professional specialists, clinicians, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anyone can call for any question. Professionals are also more than welcome to call our helpline, so that's available to anyone. And you can call with just a small question if you just want a list of local home care agencies, for example. You can call with a small question or a question about Alzheimer's, but you can also call, families can call with a more in-depth question as well. And for the more in-depth situations, we offer care consultations as well. So we used to offer these in person. Now, of course, we're doing them all over the phone and through video call, whatever the person is comfortable with. And we can sit with a family and provide them with an in-depth education around this disease, support with decision-making around whether a family is at the point where they feel the person needs a higher level of care, figuring out if it's time to move that person into residential care or nursing home care, and doing care planning. All of that we can provide in a care consultation for free. So anyone can call and schedule a care consultation at any point with us. You can call the 24/7 helpline and schedule a care consultation. And what we can do that's great with that also is schedule it with a whole family. So if you're trying to get a bunch of siblings on board, you know, to figure out how to care for a parent with Alzheimer's, and all the siblings are kind of disagreeing, we can get everyone on a Zoom call together and be the neutral third party there who can help the family just figure out next steps, educate the family, and just try to make a plan going forward for caring for that family member with Alzheimer's. And we can just spend that time that a physician is not going to have time to do, for example. We also offer a lot of support groups, caregiver support groups, and support groups for people living with dementia. Right now, I'm facilitating a support group for individuals living with dementia or living with memory loss, and they are loving that virtual support group. So the virtual support groups have been more successful than I imagined. The support group is really popular, and people with dementia are able to figure out how to get on that Zoom call and are just so happy to be able to connect with each other and connect with other people who are experiencing the same issues and similar rough spots around coping with this diagnosis, coping with these symptoms. So that's just one example of some of the good things coming out of support groups right now. We also offer lots of education programs, trainings, which I'm going to go more in depth in a little bit. All's Meetups. So I see that someone's on here from Springfield Museums. We've had some awesome All's Meetups at Springfield Museums, for example. So the Meetups are just a meetup for people living with dementia to go and do something fun together with other people, that they can just do something fun together at a location out in the community, or we're doing them in a virtual setting right now. And Trial Match, which is just a free clinical trial matching service, so just if someone's interested in clinical trials or research around Alzheimer's and dementia, they can call us and get more information about getting involved in the clinical trial. Okay, so those are just our services there, and we're happy to provide these services just to try to make the community more dementia friendly. And a lot of it is just getting the word out. You know, many people don't know about the many resources that are out there. So we can really also, as a part of the dementia friendly movement, really provide that education, because often one of the first steps is establishing a base of knowledge and a common language around dementia, engaging more people from all different sectors of the community, and then offering that education on an ongoing basis, so that hopefully it's not just a quick one-time thing, but that we can offer this education ongoing and as things evolve in the dementia world. So in the dementia friendly movement, we of course want to involve all different sectors. You know, it's not just the senior center or just the library or just the assisted livings, but trying to invite all different sectors to be a part of this movement to make our communities more friendly in general, and specifically more dementia friendly. And we'll talk a little bit more specifically about these. So here's just one example where we can provide a training to banks, for example. So I've done this with banks in Springfield and other towns and cities in Western Mass, where I can offer a free 45-minute or 1-hour education presentation training on dementia friendly. So you can reach out to me. I'll provide my contact information, and we can actually go out and do that training for free at the bank, or now, of course, we're doing it virtually. So in some ways, it's even easier. You know, now businesses or any places can sign up and do a free training online with me, a live training with a staff or volunteer from the Alzheimer's Association to do to make their business dementia friendly. And then they actually qualify for, they can get the decal that Cynthia was talking about, the dementia friendly sticker I can give them if they want to put that on their door or their window, signaling that they are a dementia friendly bank, meaning that they went through this training of how to better interact with customers and people living with dementia. Okay. It also mentions on here too that we can, of course, when whoever calls the helpline, we can provide informed advanced planning information on our helpline as well. Okay, so part of it, and this was mentioned too, making dementia friendly health systems, as well as other parts of the healthcare system. So we are really educating physicians as well, and other people in the healthcare world of the importance of early diagnosis and treatment. And people sometimes don't think of this, but doctors are often the ones, or historically have been the ones, who sometimes kind of dismiss symptoms. You know, not all the doctors, some of them were doing a great job, but some primary care physicians would sometimes kind of just say, oh, that's just normal aging. You know, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a part of normal aging. And that's not true. We want to dispel that myth that having a touch of dementia is a normal part of aging, because it's actually not. And it's a specific process that's happening in the brain. That's a physical disease that's occurring in the brain, and that requires specific diagnosis and treatment. And we want to get that message across to medical professionals as well, that they should be doing cognitive screenings with their patients, anyone over the age of 60. I mean, and as we know, some people can develop Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia in their 40s or 50s as well. So it can also impact younger people, not just people over the age of 60. Okay. So a part of this is just educating, of course, the general community too. We are happy to provide education programs out in the community, any public spaces, and just really wanting to maximize independent living in the community and offering options for meaningful community engagements. So we also want to invite, of course, government and emergency planning to be a part of this. So we do have a special first responders training that we can offer to firefighters and EMTs. The police kind of have a separate training because the police are supposed to, by law in Massachusetts, receive education in dementia. So they should already be doing that. Police in all towns and cities across Mass should already be training their staff in dementia friendly, but that's not the law for EMTs and firefighters. So at the we can provide a specific training for first responders who are interested in that. So I would definitely encourage you to, encourage your local fire department or first responders to take this training with us. And of course, we can do that virtually now. Okay, so of course, getting the library involved, we're happy to do free public education programs at libraries. Libraries can host our events. We can also train the staff at libraries to be more dementia friendly and how to better serve customers and people who come into the library who may be living with memory loss, and just some tips again on how to better interact with someone with dementia, what to do, what not to do. So we're happy to provide those trainings. So communities of faith, another group here that we're happy to do trainings, education programs with. Sometimes it's actually quite challenging to get into faith communities. They tend to be a little bit more isolated as far as my experience has been in Western Mass. So if you belong to a faith community or are close with a specific church or whatever group, we're happy to, and you want to make that connection for us, that would be great. We're happy to provide education programs, or even, we can even just do a 10-minute presentation on what our services and resources and what we offer are. And one of the programs we do a lot in the community, I wanted to give an example also, is Know the 10 Signs. So that's an education program. That's a 1-hour education program. It just goes through the 10 early warning signs of Alzheimer's and dementia. So that's a good one for a faith community, for example. And then of course, businesses will go do a presentation. We can do a lunch and learn presentation. Sometimes businesses like to call it that. Do like a half-hour lunch and learn presentation for their employees. And that not only benefits the business, but it's also benefiting all the employees, because we know that, many caregivers or care partners are actually, still working and need those resources and support themselves as caregivers who are in the working world. So we want to provide that support to them as well. Okay, and there's my email, so feel free to connect with us. There's the helpline. I'm happy to schedule programs for any group that's interested. And I know many of you I know already and have hosted our education program, so I thank you for that. And we can also do, I'm hoping to plan this with Cynthia in Springfield soon, but also doing a community forum, which is just another option we can provide for communities. And the goal of a community forum is to just allow more space that we can hear from the community on what they need. So if you're just starting this dementia-friendly process, a community forum is a great way to start, because it helps with that assessment piece that, you know, you want to assess what's happening in your community now around Alzheimer's and dementia. And the community forum the goal is just to garner that feedback and discussion from the community so they can tell us, you know, oh, you know, have had some bad experiences with doctors around diagnosis in this town, or we feel like there needs to be a support group in this town, or whatever their needs are for that specific community, we want to hear from people too. So the community forum is another great option. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing here.
Thank you, Megan. Does anyone have any questions for Megan? And let's see, I think I can see everyone. Patty.
I always learn so much, Megan. Doesn't matter how many times I hear you present, I always learn things. But one of the things I wanted to just emphasize, I guess two things. One is that everybody can call that 800 number. And I want to give you an example. One of my neighbors in Brookline in our townhouse complex has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, a pretty advanced form. And his family was having, in our parking lot, Thanksgiving dinner socially spaced because they knew it would be the last one. So I took out of my trunk cards, and every one of those kids took multiple 800 number cards. And those kids all called that number. And it brought them comfort. They were all terrified to see their father the way he was, but it was instant comfort from that one. And then the next day, I read in I think the Wall Street Journal, about an article about early diagnosis and financial discrepancies. Megan, do you know? You probably know what I'm talking about. So in my car, I'm listening to NPR about, so there's a new study, big study, that shows that people who had financial difficulties later tested positive for Alzheimer's. Big study. So I call the 800 number and I say, is this legit? And they say, we don't know, but we'll call you back. And they call me back. And the answer is, it's legit. So whether you're a care partner or a kid or anybody, or me being a nerd, everybody can call.
Patty, can you say that again about the study you're referring to?
Yeah, I'll put it out, Cynthia. You're on the DFM listserv. I'll put it out. It's scheduled to come out on Thursday. It was a big study that was done that looked at people's financial troubles because, and then later under Medicaid, if you were diagnosed with dementia. Because we know, I mean, Megan, you know this in your sleep, that one of the early indicators often for adult children is that their parents suddenly can't balance the checkbook.
So hearing that, I'm feeling really scared when I think about the low-income communities. I mean, that's a way of life. It's a daily thing. And oh my God, kind of scary.
Oh, muted. Okay. Yeah, Patty, so you're saying, so that study was talking about people with lower incomes are more susceptible, or that when people start getting diagnosis, they start losing ability to manage their finances. I guess it's a little of both.
Okay, well, mostly what happens is that you begin to see and Megan, jump in here because you probably know the data better than I do. And I'll post the study once I'm not talking in the chat bar. What we find is that one of the things about dementia is that suddenly you're not able to do things that you could do before, right? And numbers for some people is one of the things that they lose. So suddenly my mom, who could do net present value in her head, suddenly can't balance her checkbook. And what this study shows is that if you have these types of problems with your finances, so you end up not paying bills, you end up in bankruptcy, I mean, all of those consequences, that later on under Medicaid, you end up testing positive for dementia. And there's a direct correlation. So, and this is something that the Alzheimer's Association has told us for years, but now it's a big study. So people pay more attention to it. And I just wanted to make sure that the Alzheimer's Association agreed with me, and they did. So I'll now go look for the citation. I think it was in the New York Times, but let me see if I can find it and I'll post it.
Great, thanks. Any other questions right now? Haley?
This is a question for Megan. Megan, I was wondering if you had ever teamed up with local media stations, like local cable access stations, to televise community forums or other programs that are part of the array of offerings of the Alzheimer's Association. Because I'm thinking about introducing our community of Hadley. I'm the COA director there. We have a really strong friendship and professional relationship with Hadley Media, and so I'm working on thinking through a way to present an introduction to age and dementia friendly initiatives on cable. And I'm wondering if a community forum would be the kind of thing that might be a good focus for such a thing, or anything else that you can think of that would have maybe some visual appeal, or that there are, that's a combination of a slide presentation and live talking and real, humans in the moment discussing the topic.
Yeah, thank you. So this is something Patty has been trying to work on too lately. We actually have not done a good job of utilizing the public TV stations as much as they could be utilized for definitely reaching this population, because we know, a lot of people who still watch those channels are older people, and we should utilize them. There's a lot of opportunity there that we have not taken advantage of. So yes, I'm happy. I have done many TV interviews with, local news and stuff. So I'm happy to do an interview like with you or whoever to just talk about this stuff. You can pose questions. I can talk about it. I'm happy to do a TV interview or a radio interview for any group that will have us, any outlet. And I don't think it would be the best format for a community forum, just because the goal of our community forums is to get feedback from the community and get a discussion going. And so I don't think TV would be the best format for that, but I'm happy to do just some educational stuff or a discussion of what is dementia friendly, why should you care about dementia friendly, etc. So yeah, I'm happy to do any of that.
Well, Megan, you've also done a piece on In Focus, correct?
Yes.
And In Focus is a local community station. Is it 22 or 40?
I don't remember.
It's one of those. Yeah, and I think the other channel has one as well. That comes on around noontime. I know you've done a lot of those on the TV station. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually with we're working with Belchertown and Agawam now, and we've been talking about integrating cable media with like a Zoom meeting. So it's something we may be experimenting with as we try to do community engagement around age and dementia friendly planning during this digital age, or the not socially meeting together age. So yeah, we'll definitely share that experience with the group. Patty, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when I'm not torturing Megan, I'm torturing her colleagues. So MCOA has a partnership with the statewide cable access group called Mass Access. And so when Julie McMurray, a colleague of Megan's, records several of these programs, they will be distributed on statewide cable. So any local cable access station can pull them down and run them. And Haley, as an example, a lot of places do this, and I'm about to volunteer Megan to do this in your community, is that you can have on local cable, you and Megan, and ask the Alzheimer's, ask the dementia, or ask the memory care expert, whatever, call-in program. So the local cable station has people calling in, and Megan will answer their questions.
Like, let me just throw another thought.
I've done that on radio in Springfield a bit, and I love doing call-in questions.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I want to just remind all of us as well, that we also keep in mind diversity and inclusion as we develop our programs and start working in the community, as well as language barriers. There is also, one of the populations I'm trying to pull into this is we have a rather sizable Somalian East African community. Mm-hmm. Their numbers in terms of dementia are off the chart. But very few information is in their language. And it's hard to find translators. So we're trying to figure out how can we make this work, particularly working with the care and health center, because that's primarily where they go for their care. But, with the COVID again, and I hate that word, it's kind of limiting what we're able to do. But I just want to make sure that we keep in mind diversity and inclusion as we move forward. Haley, I'm not sure what your diversity of your population, but just make sure that we're kind of diverse and inclusive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Cynthia. And I just wanted to mention too that so at the Alzheimer's Association, we have a staff member here in Springfield who is bilingual and speaks Spanish and offers care consultations and support in Spanish and English. So that's a really helpful resource. And then on the helpline, if you call the helpline, they can translate it into over 200 different languages that you can talk to people through the translator system, like medical translation system, in over 200 languages. So that is available. But I think it's still a challenge of how do we reach people who are non-English speakers or speak English as a second language and bring them in, because we know that all different people need this education and resources too. It's just sometimes even harder to reach those populations, and we need to put in extra effort. So yes, thank you for doing that. And I think that's all I was going to mention about that. I wanted to mention too that. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to mention one more thing, which is we're always welcoming volunteers. So if you know anyone who's looking for a volunteer opportunity, seniors or anyone of any age who wants to become a dementia expert on their own, we will train. We do an extensive training for volunteers so that they can absorb this knowledge and go out and help us bring this information to more people too. So we're always recruiting volunteers as well. And especially, of course, volunteers who speak other languages as well. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Cynthia, did you have one more thing, or otherwise we're gonna?
It just went away.
Okay. Well, I want to take some time to just break everyone into groups so we can have a little bit of conversation. And Patty and Megan, are you going to stick with us till? Okay. So I'm just going to break people into groups randomly, and let me share the screen for the questions. So the questions are, even if you don't specifically call them dementia friendly, what dementia friendly activities are you already doing in your community or at your Council on Aging? And what's one thing you'd like to do to make your community more dementia friendly? And then are there any dementia friendly initiatives that should be considered at a regional level? So I'm gonna share these questions in the chat and I will break you into rooms. I can figure out how to do that. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go with 5 rooms. All right. And just once the thing comes up, just say join room. Okay. Oops. Marie, I see you're on the phone. I'm not sure if I can put you in a breakout room. Let's see. Marie, if you hit *6, you can unmute yourself. Okay.
So I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts, and I was part of the, and still am, but was part of the original group that created the Springfield Dementia Friendly Coalition. So, you know, we have the 3 designations, as was mentioned earlier, and have met with a number of groups that was mentioned earlier. The responses to our groups have been very, very positive. I tell you, our first group was with the mayor's team pretty much, and a lot of the local, you know, dignitaries and local staff, including some of the city council people. So we started pretty much at the top, and then we worked our way to businesses. We worked our way, as Cynthia mentioned, to the faith, you know, communities, And we did a little bit of training with a few of our residents, but we got kind of stalwart and have to get back on the case.
So I just wanted to make sure you all got the questions, and
Rebecca wrote them down. She's a good student.
Good for you.
So far, we only Z has come up with things that were actually done by her community. I'm afraid to say that Amherst, as far as I know, hasn't done much. And our Director of Senior Services has been pulled in a number of different directions in the past, several months because of COVID. She's been asked to wear different hats as well as her Council on Aging hat. So I don't know if she's been, taking initiatives since March, really. I know she was going to spearhead our effort to become an age-friendly community, but I don't know if she's, made any progress with that.
Yeah, and I can reach out to her because we are offering technical assistance through this grant to help communities start that, and I'll be working with Ware, and I wanted to check in with you guys, Rebecca and Stuart, to see if you're ready to start that or if you want to delay a little more. And I heard from John today that he had a issue at the senior center, so
oh yeah,
able to join us today.
Forgot about that.
I think we're ready. Actually, just based on this conversation, I think we're ready for some technical assistance because John's clearly doing some things, but it'd be helpful to know what the community should be doing.
Okay.
I think this might be a good time to get started too, because this is a time where we're trying to be in communication with different businesses and other groups, combining our resources across the community in general. So while we're having those conversations, this might be a good time to jump into the age-friendly, dementia-friendly, and start moving forward with that.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing a lot of need in communities, to reach out to older adults, and also, how to figure out providing services in this time when people can't go to the senior center anymore. And really, keeping track of people during the winter and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can tell you from a Springfield viewpoint that given the numbers, well, not only the numbers of those who may be experiencing symptoms, but or challenges, but just the aging population in general, has increased. So this is certainly at the forefront of our communities. And I also wanted to piggyback on something that Cynthia mentioned about, diversity and inclusion, because she's right. In Springfield, particularly, there are multicultural communities, and everybody's impacted.
Yeah, Christine, I don't know if do you know if the senior centers worked with, I know there's fairly big Spanish speaking community in Amherst.
I don't really know. You mean recently in the last few months, or prior to?
I'm sure she's got a lot on her plate, but yeah.
Prior to COVID, I'm sure she did work with them, but now I really don't know what her bandwidth is for doing all the different things that she's being asked to do.
Yeah.
So I'm certainly interested in working with Mary Beth on becoming an age-friendly community, but we've also been pulled in a lot of different directions trying to keep the restaurants alive. So we've been applying for Mass DOT grants to try to expand our exterior dining, and that worked pretty well until about last week, and then it didn't work so well anymore. So I think we've stopped that for the winter, but we're still going to apply for another grant this winter to help us in the spring. So that's been a lot of the focus of our work, other than the usual permitting and things like that we do. So we haven't had much of energy or time to tackle new initiatives, which for us would be age-friendly and dementia-friendly designations. But I certainly want to make that a priority when we are not facing COVID-19 any longer.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, I had a meeting this morning about this intersection that we're designing right now. And my preference is that it be a traditional intersection, that it be two streets crossing at right angles and have traffic lights with buttons that you could push to cross the street. Our DPW superintendent is very enthusiastic about, and up at UMass where there are a lot of, younger people, college students, so they can figure out what's going on. But I'm afraid that if we have, and based on this conversation today, this is what brought it to mind. If we put an intersection in a place where there's a lot of foot traffic, including all different age groups, that, elderly people and people with dementia are going to have trouble figuring it out. It's not easy to figure out when you have the right of way to cross the street in a roundabout when you're walking. So that's going to be a challenge to us.
I'm curious, which intersection is that, Christine?
It's the intersection of Pomeroy Lane and Route 116, West Street, where Mission Cantina is. And,
okay.
Yeah, there's also a Speedway gas station there and a few other things, but there's a lot of activity there. People who work in the office park on one side of 116 cross over to get to El Comalita and other food sources on the east side. And so, they're taking their life in their hands by crossing the street now, but there is a traffic light. So my preference would be to put, improve the traffic lights and put push buttons in for pedestrians. But we're getting, this other idea from DPW that a roundabout would be better, and it probably would be better for moving traffic, but it probably wouldn't be better for pedestrians who really hadn't thought of this angle when I was having the conversation this morning. So this is helpful to me to talk about it in light of dementia friendly.
Yeah, I know I'm working in Springfield on their complete streets prioritization plan, and there are a lot of crazy intersections in Springfield, 5, 6 roads coming in all at once. And they just redid one with a roundabout, and I'll be interested to see how pedestrians do in that. I know there were walking routes for pedestrians, but that's always a big...
Where was that located?
What was that?
And where is that located?
I think it's 6 Corners. I forget what it's called. It's the intersection of, I think St. James, or I know Hancock goes into it, Hancock and Walnut.
Okay, that might be 6 Corners, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds challenging.
Yeah. Rebecca, have you applied for Shared Streets grants or?
No.
Sorry. I'm having a low bandwidth issue today, so Zoom just kicks me out sometimes. So.
Oh, that's okay. I said we did apply, but we did not receive them. We'll see if we go for the winter round of applications.
Yeah, they are emphasizing age friendly. So if there's anything that the senior center needs, that might be a good one. Okay. Well, I'm going to jump out and leave you guys to talk. I'm going to close the meeting rooms at 2:45.
Okay.
Thanks. Were you all in a breakout room?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I just wanted to make sure.
We were, and then we left our breakout room because we thought I don't know, we were confused.
Oh, okay. Well, you can keep talking. I'm going to close all the rooms at 2:45. So
Becky, did you get the information for the Belchertown Access TV from Jessica?
I'm not sure. I think so. Yeah. I think she sent it right after the meeting.
Okay.
I'll look. And Vanessa, where are you from?
In a minute.
Vanessa? I can't hear you.
From Springfield Partners.
Oh, okay. Springfield. Okay.
Yeah, I'm fairly new, so I'm trying to just get as many resources and different things that I can help with.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if your mic is, if you have a mic.
Can you hear me now?
Just a little bit.
I said no. We're fairly new in this position, so for the telephone reassurance person, so I'm trying to get as many resources available.
I think you might have to type in the chat because I think I heard you're from Health and Human Services at Springfield. Okay. And Heather, I'm glad you're here because I know you're working with a number of these communities. And we are working with Agawam, Agawam and Belchertown now, but we'll also be working with a few others. So
Didn't Agawam already get designated, or was that age friendly?
they have their age-friendly designation, but they're working on the community assessment and action plan. So the initial designation is for 2 years, and then the next one is for 3 years once the assessment.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna close all the rooms, so we'll get everyone back. Oh, gives them 2 minutes. Oh, great. So Zoom's giving everyone another minute or so, but I think everyone should be back in just a little bit. Okay, we're waiting for one more room. Oh, great. Okay. So I think we have everyone back now. Anyone have any good discussions that you would like to share about some ideas for what you can do in your communities? Heather, I see, do you want to share what you just said about the Springfield museums? Heather?
Oh, sure. Thank you. I was thinking earlier I should have probably asked to introduce myself. A lot of you probably were wondering what the Springfield museums were doing on the call. I explained to my breakout group that the museums have recently gone through a process called universal participation through the Mass Cultural Council, and it was really an endeavor just to make our organization much more inclusive. But a lot of the things that we talked about, I think, are perfectly applicable to an aging population or a population that is starting to see dementia in it. So we're just looking to learn all we can. And I wrote down a ton of helpful information for me. But in my group, I was talking about some of the things we are doing. A lot of them are virtual tours and virtual lectures series. And so I put my contact in the chat area. And if anyone would like to learn more, please just shoot me an email and I'll add you to our list. And you can start receiving information that you're more than welcome to share with your constituents. Thank you.
Thanks, that's great. Having some connection issues today myself, so sometimes Zoom just boots me out. Can you all hear me? Okay. Anyone else have anything you want to share?
Becky, my group, I can share from the group that I was in. I had folks from Franklin County, Belchertown, and Hampden County, with Ms. Cynthia and I representing Hampden County. And folks were at different levels when it comes to age friendly. Some of us have already done some trainings and workshops. Others are just starting the process of the assessment, but all agree to assess dementia and age friendly at the same time. Awareness and education for healthcare professionals, business professionals were key. I think partners expressed sectors that they were strongly connected to, like faith community being one of them. And like I said, the police department was another strong sector that they were